I'm trying to remember how old I was in that. Probably around your age, Steve.
Oh boy, am I wrong, huh?
No.
I recognize the nose.
Where did you go to officer training school?
I went to officers training. When I washed out of the Air Corps because I couldn't land an airplane the way I was supposed to, I was sent to Great Lakes, and there were about 30 of us down there who were washed out, and I don't like that term washed out, but that's about what it amounted to. And they gave us tests and sent me to, I had college, so they sent me to Officers Training School in Chicago, Illinois, at part of Northwestern University. So we were down there for 4 months, excuse me. And then I got my stripe as ensign in the Navy.
And then where'd they send you?
And then they sent me to Oakland, Alameda, I believe. And we were there, a couple of us were there, and we were there long enough to see Bronco Nagurski's football team. He was coach at one of the colleges out there, or the university, and we went to see a football game there in Oakland. Really interesting, and a lot of fun. But then, after we sat there for a couple of weeks, we were transferred, or we were shipped out to Hawaii and then Kwajalein. And some went on from Kwajalein. I was lucky. By that I mean I was stationed in Kwajalein and was put on a landing craft tank as second officer, and a couple of the other guys went on further to places like Guam and Tarawa and places like that. But where I was in the, I worked with the Seabees. We landed Seabees, and they built airports and other things on these islands as they became available. And this is a picture of me and a dog that our guys picked up.
Let's see.
And wait a minute, Skipper and Skip. We call the dog Skip.
Wait, is that yours or your brother?
That's me. And I sat the war out there.
So you were in Kwajalein the whole time?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Marshall Island, it says.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And we'd haul a whole shipload of material to different islands so they could put up Lorans, which is a form of radar equipment and communications and such like that. Or if they were to repair a landing strip or something like that, we worked the Seabees with the Seabees, which is the building arm of the Navy.
So how many months were you overseas during the war? Or what years?
I was overseas 45. I can't remember when I got there in 45.
You said you graduated from officer school in 42?
43, I think it was.
Did you get drafted, or did you...
Well, I had enlisted in the Navy Air Corps, and I was in college in the Navy Air Corps. But then they called a bunch of cadets, sent us down to Monmouth College, Monmouth, Illinois, where we had ground school, radar, mapping and things like that. And then I went to Chicago, where we started flying. And that's where I had the problem of landing an airplane. I just didn't know where the ground was, and I couldn't have anything like that.
So how many times did you fly?
Oh, gosh, I wish I could tell you. I flew several times and soloed, but landing an airplane was a trick that I couldn't master.
But you had taken off all right.
Yeah.
Do you remember what kind of planes you flew in?
Yeah, they were Cubs. That was at did I say the University of Chicago? I meant the University of Wisconsin at Madison. That's where we did our flying.
Mm.
And,
So you were
in
in
the
college when you enlisted?
I was.
Were you going to college when the war started?
Yes. Well, I went to college in 1940, the fall of 40, graduated from the spring of 40, 1940. And the war didn't start until
The end of 41.
and it was the end of 41 or end of 40? End of 41.
Right.
Yeah. Hmm.
So you said you graduated high school in 1940?
That's right. Mhm. Yep. And I went to St. Ove College, and I was in my second year when this happened, or when the war started. And I had signed up for what they called the Navy V5 school. That was allowed us to stay in college.
Mm-hmm.
But then it got to the point where they needed flyers, and they pulled some out of school. But I was lucky that I was around where it was safe for quite a while, when others were on the front making landings and things like that. We were trained to make landings, but the only landings we made were peaceful ones.
Mm-hmm. You were on the landing ship tanks? How big were those boats?
I got to look that up, Dan. I can't remember.
Landing craft tanks?
Yep, landing craft
Craft tanks.
tank. Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
LCTs.
That's what I said.
And they had
How many crew were on
about 18 and 2 officers.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, were you always the second officer, or did you
no,
ever get...
no, it wasn't too long after I was there that the officer in charge got a little risky and stole some stuff off from a load that we were unloading on an island where the admiral was. And on that load were the admiral's cigars. And he just decided he needed some cigars, so he took a box of cigars. And when he got up in the island, he was passing out cigars in the officers' club. They recognized they were the admiral's cigars, and he lost his command, and I got it. And I was lucky a couple of times. The lieutenant commander came down and said, "I need somebody to haul a USO troop from one island to the other," and and we think you're good for that. And that was fun because we had I can't remember the names of these people that sang and danced, and
USO, wasn't it?
yeah, it was USO of some sort, but I can't remember. I have a picture of them. We had a boxing balloon or what do you call them on the stern?
Where they box the ball?
Where they, and stuff like that, exercise. And I can remember one of the ladies said, "I've worn my fingers to a frazzle on your boxing, whatever you call that thing." Something like that. And she said, but it was fun. And we had a marvelous time. So, but I qualified for this thing because when the guy who was in charge of our landing craft left, they put me through some rigorous tests, landing or tying up to an aircraft carrier, tying up to boats that had fuel on them, aircraft fuel, and we haul that up to an island where the PBYs were, and they would, if they got a notice some flyer was down, they would go around and search. And
but you're a pretty good pilot of the little boats.
yeah, yeah. And we had 3 rudders and 2 big diesel engines. And the rudders were on all. We had 3 diesel engines, port, starboard, and in the middle. But we had rudders only on the port and on the starboard. And manipulating those wasn't the easiest thing in the world, and I picked onto that pretty decently. In fact, I showed them how to do it. I don't know, for some reason or other, in fooling around and practicing and all this and that, I found that if you were out in a fairly heavy sea and you wanted to tie up to a aircraft carrier or something, they got quite a scoop on them. And you had to be very, very careful. And I found out that by putting my starboard engine ahead, idling my port engine, putting the starboard engine ahead with a right rudder, that would crab you through the water. And you could get up alongside this aircraft carrier and settle in, and then, of course, they threw lines up and tied you up. And
now, how far would you have to go in an open ocean, shuttling between the islands?
In mileage, I can't remember. We had a couple of overnight trips, but most of them were same-day trips.
Could you always see the islands you were going to, or sometimes you couldn't see
We
land?
always saw some island, yes. A lot of it was coral reefs. Pretty, very pretty. Kwajalein, Evie. I can't even think of the other ones right now.
Were you ever in any rough seas?
Oh yeah, we were in rough seas. There were flat bottoms, with these boats, and it's hard to control. But generally, if we were in a rough sea thing, they would bring us in to port, where we could tie up. Were
you out every day, or were some days where you just stayed in?
Most mostly every day. We either went out and tied up to a big fuel ship, and they loaded 50-gallon drums of aircraft fuel down on our deck. I wish I had written down how many of them we could take, but and we were flat-bottomed, and that, of course, gave us a little more depth. And we'd haul that up to EB and tie up to their pier, and the Seabees would unload the oil or gas. And
When did you come back after the war?
we were given the assignment of destroying a half a dozen landing craft tanks. And of course, I was in on that deal. Well, a lot of anybody who was on those got to go home. But we had to go out and we had to shoot holes in the sides of these landing craft tank. We had when we get out in the ocean with them, someone would open up the
valves or the sea
valve
valves?
where the screws were, and then load up, and we'd also have target practice shooting, trying to shoot holes in the side of the ships so it would sink faster.
Mm.
But I didn't get home till 46.
Mm.
Why did they want you to destroy those boats?
They didn't have anything else to do with them. They were through with them. There was a lot of waste.
Guess it would have cost too much to bring them back.
Yeah, well, you see, you couldn't bring them back all the way to the United States. They wouldn't. They weren't really an ocean-going deal.
Right. Probably
To
wasn't.
get them over there, they put them on the deck of an LST,
Mhm.
which is a landing ship tank.
Mhm.
They put them on the deck of the LST, and then they'd list the LST, and the LCT would slide off into the water.
Mm.
I never saw that, however.
Probably just wasn't worth the energy to bring them back.
Right, exactly right. They were stripped of anything that worthwhile. Like on board, they had a diesel engine to when you landed on a coral island or on a beach, you dropped your anchor out and went in and discharged what you had, and sometimes you were high and dry. If you were high and dry, you couldn't do much about it, but if you had some water underneath you, you could pull yourself off.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, generators had to be watched. You'd burn up a generator if it wasn't turned off or temperatures taken on it. So that was my life in the Navy.
My life in the Navy.
Could have been worse.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.